there are 9 states giving out their own stimulus checks. I'll let you know which 9 states, how much those stimulus checks are to see if you qualify. And with the infrastructure package, Mitch McConnell saying that he wants to slow it down and not pass it right away. Meanwhile, Chuck Schumer wants to do it as soon as possible. So the Biden administration announces new targeted eviction moratorium for many renters. This eviction ban, which expired August 1st, is now going to be extended until October 3rd, according to the CDC. So this is going to, the CDC extending the federal eviction moratorium is expected to cover about 90% of renters, and it's going to target 80% of counties. So here is President Biden talking more about this announcement, and then I'll give you some more details after that.
The answer is twofold. One, I've sought out constitutional scholars to determine what is the best possibility that would come from executive action or the CDC's judgment. What could they do that was most likely to pass muster constitutionally? The bulk of the constitutional scholarship says that it's not likely to pass constitutional muster, number one. But there are several key scholars who think that it may, and it's worth the effort. But the present, you could not, the court's already ruled on the present eviction moratorium. So I think what you're going to see, and I want to make it clear. I told you I would not tell the Justice Department or the medical experts or scientists what they should say or do. So I don't want to get ahead. The CDC has to make this. I asked the CDC to go back and consider other options that may be available. You're going to hear from them what those other options are. I have been informed they're about to make a judgment as to potential other options. Whether that option will pass constitutional measure with this administration, I can't tell you. I don't know. There are a few scholars who say it will, and others who say it's not likely to. But at a minimum, by the time it gets litigated, we'll probably give some additional time while we're getting that $45 billion out to people who are, in fact, behind in the rent and don't have the money. That's why it was passed in the act that we passed in the beginning of my administration. And it went to the states. We were under the impression that the states were moving this money out relatively rapidly.
President Biden basically saying he'll do whatever it takes to extend the eviction moratorium, whether it is legal or not. Regardless, the CDC extended the eviction moratorium for 60 days as of yesterday, so October 3rd is when the eviction moratorium is going to expire. Now, in my opinion, extending the eviction moratorium is just a band-aid for the solution. The real problem is the rental money, the rental assistance money that has not gone out to renters, which is going to solve the problem. It's going to solve any money lost from job loss to pay for the rent. So agencies across the country are basically saying this. Agencies say Oregon's faulty software is slowing rent assistance, putting renters at risk for eviction. And then we have this, why tenants are still struggling to pay their bills despite $46 billion in rental relief available. So there's $46 billion in rental assistance available to millions of renters across the country. But out of that $46 billion, just $3 billion went out. So there's the big problem right there. So basically they're extending the eviction moratorium just to buy some time to have this state rental assistance money, the $46 billion, go to renters so it could pay for back rent. It could pay up to 12 months of rent. Landlords could get their money. They could pay their mortgage. And I think that will help not completely solve the problem, but it'll help the eviction moratorium, and it doesn't need to be extended indefinitely. Basically, it's just being extended so this money could go out. Here are some more details from Elon Moy about it.
I can confirm, according to a source familiar, that the Biden administration does to issue a new eviction moratorium after some intense political pressure from within his own party. That moratorium is expected to come from the CDC. It would last for 60 days through October the 3rd, or 90% of the population. Now, the Biden administration had been concerned that it did not have the legal authority to extend the moratorium. Biden was just speaking to reporters and said that he had asked the CDC to look at some alternative options and that some sort of decision should be announced within the next hour or two. And guys, on a separate note, President Biden also weighed in on the scandal surrounding New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, and he did call on Governor Cuomo.
So what are your thoughts? Should the eviction moratorium have been extended? Should it not have been extended? What are your thoughts on the rental assistance money not going out? Let me know your thoughts on all that down in the comments below. A real big mess, and it definitely shows the incompetence of the states computer systems not being able to get the money out. The money's sitting there in an account. I don't think that it's being siphoned into, corrupt politicians' pockets because they need to track that money. It just really needs to go to renters and landlords to help solve this problem. Next, let's talk about stimulus checks. So as unemployment payments are leveling off, basically most people got their third stimulus check. Some state stimulus checks are giving those out. I'm going to go over those in a moment. Household debt jumps by the most in 14 years to nearly 15 trillion in the second quarter. So household debt rose $313 billion in the second quarter to nearly $15 trillion. In dollar terms, that was the fastest growth since the second quarter of 2007, and at 2.1% was the fastest percent increase in 7.5 years. So this debt isn't coming from people going shopping and doing consumer spending. Basically, this debt is to cover people's livelihoods, cover food, medical bills, basically just to survive. It's not like we have a booming economy and people are buying computers and shoes. No, this is to live, to survive. Over the past 4 quarters, mortgage originations have totaled close to 4.6 trillion, amounting to 44% of all outstanding home loan balances. Things are getting really bad now. The call for fourth stimulus checks and additional stimulus aid is definitely high right now. A lot of people are saying that stimulus checks are mainly going out to people with families, people with kids, but what about everyone else? What about people who are single? What about people who are on disability, who are older, whose kids have left the economy? People who are retired, who dedicated decades of their lives to the economy, are they just left out to dry? For the most part, yes, until there is a federal fourth stimulus check. Until then, I'm going to go over the state stimulus checks. So there are currently 9 state stimulus checks, which I'll go over in this article, saying fourth stimulus checks are coming from these states. Is yours on the list? So let me go over these states. So we all know about the California stimulus check, which is going to give $600 to adults, an extra $500 if you have a child dependent, if you make between $30,000 and $75,000. Those are going out in September. So if you're in California, you should start to see those checks. And then in Colorado is sending $375 stimulus checks to people who received at least one unemployment payment between March 15th, 2020 and October 24th, 2020. And then there's also going to be $500 per week checks going out. In Maryland has a immediate stimulus payments of $500 for families and $300 for individuals. New Mexico is going to they have $5 million, which is going to be distributed. It's going to give $750 stimulus checks in New Mexico. Florida has a few different ones here, so it's going to be $1,000 stimulus checks to most teachers and administrators. It's also going out to first responders. Then in Georgia, there is for full-time teachers and administrators get $1,000 checks, and then part-time teachers are receiving $500 stimulus checks, and there's a plan underway to provide for pre-K educators as well. Michigan is going to give out $500 hazard pay bonuses. Tennessee is giving out $1,000 checks labeled as hazard pay bonus to full-time teachers, and then part-time teachers get $500 checks, and then they're going to get their checks at the end of the year. Texas is going to give out, different counties are going to give out $500 bonus, and then $2,000 payments will be distributed to staff who return to the classroom in September. So some bonuses there. So you may notice a lot of it is going to teachers and workers. Let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments below. Should more states give out their own stimulus checks? Should the stimulus checks be more broad so it goes out to everybody? Let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments below. When it comes to a fourth stimulus check, the petition for $2,000 per month stimulus check is currently at 2,743,000 signatures so far. New monthly stimulus checks would pay adults up to $1,200, $600 for children in Representative Ilhan Omar's proposed plan. So this is that Support Act, which is going to give the $1,200 per month universal basic income national program. Let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments below. What do you think about this $1,200 per month, basically indefinitely, forever, compared to the $2,000 per month until it is over with that fourth stimulus check plan? And I got some questions. What about people who are on SSI, SSDI, if you're an adult dependent? So basically it's just $1,200 for all US residents above 18, and then under 18 it's $600 per month for any US resident, someone with a social security for that. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on that. Next, let's get into what's going on with infrastructure. Now, infrastructure doesn't really pay the bills for most of us, but we need to get past this Part 1 bipartisan infrastructure package in order to get that Part 2 human infrastructure, which has all the stimulus provisions in it, which is going to help out a lot more people. So Senate plods along on infrastructure bill as McConnell warns Democrats to move slowly. So Mitch McConnell not too happy that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats want to get this done as soon as possible. Mitch McConnell saying, hey, slow your roll. Let's take this step by step. Here is Senator Rob Portman, one of the important senators who is part of the infrastructure negotiations, giving the latest update.
Senator, first of all, congratulations on getting to this point. There had been a lot of doubters about whether you all could actually get a deal that you could get enough people to agree on. So congratulations on that. But what do you think happens next?
Thanks, Becky. Well, we'll have more amendments, which is great. We're encouraging members of both sides of the aisle to come forward and let's debate the issues. We had some amendments last night. We have some more scheduled this morning. And hopefully by the end of the week, we can have plenty of amendments and have a vote on this. It's great for the country, Becky. This is about fixing up our infrastructure, which has fallen behind. Every economic analysis we've seen says the same thing, which is if we do this, over the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years, it's going to help our economy in significant ways because it'll make the economy more efficient, makes us more productive as a country, helps our economic growth. Every president in modern times has tried to do this, as you know, including Donald Trump, who had a $1.5 trillion package. Ours is $550 billion, so it's not quite as ambitious as his was. He deserves credit for stirring up the debate on the Republican side and getting people to think about the importance of infrastructure. And my hope is we can get this done on a bipartisan basis.
Looks like we hit another plateau when it comes to the infrastructure negotiations. We finally got the bill text. The next step is to just have the votes. I know they're talking about things, they're putting in amendments, they're changing things around, but the next step is the vote, and the Senate is leaving for their vacation on Friday, August 6th. After August 6th, they're going to be gone for weeks on their vacation. So if they don't get it done by then, we're not going to have it done for a while. So Mitch McConnell warns Democrats he'll block rushed infrastructure package. Basically, if the Democrats don't do what Mitch McConnell wants, Mitch McConnell will tell all the Republicans, say, hey, Republicans, let's not vote. So basically kind of holding it hostage, playing political games. Speaking of political games here, so Schumer beats McConnell in Capitol foot race to the TV cameras. So you got to check out this clip. Mitch McConnell is walking up to the podium to give a speech, and then Chuck Schumer cuts right in. Check this out.
Well, you all remember what they used to say about Chuck over in the House. You never want to get between Chuck and the camera. Just had a first-hand experience with that. I must say he was quite good at beating me to the microphone.
Looks like Chuck Schumer showing Mitch McConnell who is boss, who is the now majority leader of the Senate. But this doesn't really matter. This is more of like a trivial matter. Let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments below. Do you think there's any animosity there? Was there any mind games going on, or is this just politics as usual? Bernice Weston asks, what about the American people who are in forbearance for their homes? Will there be another extension? So at this time, the CDC eviction moratorium is just for renters. The forbearance has not been extended within that case. Cheryl Gale asks, I have a 13 and 16-year-old child and got one check. Could someone tell me where or who to answer my question? So if you only got one stimulus check, I'm assuming that's what you mean. You're going to have to, you should have filed a rebate recovery credit to get the first and second stimulus check. For the third stimulus check, you're going to have to wait until next year for that. Next question, Jewel Gaspard asks, the section from Bella is a repeat. Is it because she's in summer camp, or what's going on with her? So yeah, at the end of these videos, I do a Bella's tip of the day. She is in summer camp. She doesn't come back till late. She's tired. But also in general, I ask her, whenever I see her, do you want to do a tip of the day? Sometimes she says yes. Sometimes she says no. So if she says no, I respect her space. I don't want to force her to do it. So that's why I do repeats of that. Next, Paula Faufada asks, garbage, how does that infrastructure put food on my table? So yeah, the infrastructure package, the Part 1 bipartisan, isn't really giving out a lot of stimulus money. There's job creation, which could benefit people with jobs, but in terms of like giving out more stimulus programs and stuff like that, it's going to be in the second